On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, we talk some basketball, Texas basketball that is. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. So to begin, Dylan, yes, we're getting into some basketball. Tourney season is coming up shortly. I got a little recap of some of the recent games that have been happening. We had up and down recently. Obviously, we beat Tennessee, or the Longhorns beat Tennessee. I was not on the court, Dylan, at home, and then they lost to Texas Tech, which was not a pretty game if you were a Texas fan there. But yet again, Lubbock and Texas don't really coincide or mix too well. And then Texas beat Kansas, and then lost on Saturday to Baylor. So couple of games I've listed obviously is evidence of an up and down season so far. All the teams that I listed are ranked teams, which is worth noting. But yet again, if you want to be the king of the hill, Dylan, you got to be winning most of those and not taking the even split. So what do you think about Texas so far?
Well, to touch on that Texas Tech game, the whole vibe of that was just not good. That was their championship, and Texas. It was going to be hard for Coach Beard to really motivate them in that situation until they experience it. So I'm looking at the game coming up. I'm guessing in a few weeks or so, or in a week against Texas Tech, where Texas is at home, to really be like that benchmark or see really how close Texas and Texas Tech are this year. But I do like this team. There are good spots. I mean, the average age is 22, which is around a year younger than the Oklahoma City Thunder, Devon. So this is a veteran team. Obviously, they haven't played a lot together because they're mostly made up of transfers from other teams. But throughout the season, they've continued to gel, which was kind of just a whole. I think everyone going into the season knew that that was going to be the case. There's going to be some growing pains, maybe stretches where they looked good, but then times where that chemistry was off against teams where like that had gelled longer. But I do like Timmy Allen, Devin. Based off what I'm seeing, it's death taxes and mid-range jumpers out of him. Really, he's just been shooting the lights out, especially the free throw line jumper. He was doing that a lot against Kansas, and he looked great out there. Also, Minnesota transfer guard Marcus Carr. After watching him play in the Big Ten, he definitely had bright spots, and I'm seeing the same thing here at Texas. He's averaging 10.9 points per game, which is second to Timmy Allen, who's averaging 11.6. And he's also got 3.6 assists per game, Devin, which leads the team as well. And he provides that pace that you need out of a guard, especially going down the stretch against good teams, possibly into March Madness. And then Trey Mitchell, Courtney Ramey, Andrew Jones. I really liked what I've seen out of them. I know. Well, we touched on him quite a bit a few months ago. Devin Askew has not really looked the part that you're hoping for. He kind of looks like he did at Kentucky, so he hasn't really changed the way you were hoping. But this is still a good team. They're the bright spots of them is just the physicality. There's size in the paint. That's how they're gonna beat teams, and then also some guard play mixed in as well for some nice stretches is gonna be really helpful. But again, I mean, the only thing they really need to work on, I see, is continuing to gel together, as well as limit that complete physicality against Baylor that was used against them. There was like 20 or something fouls, and they were sending Baylor to the free throw line, which really put them at a disadvantage. So that's something that Texas is going to need to work on in the future.
Definitely, and like you're talking about Baylor, a lot of those teams have size that Texas does not have. Aside from Trey Mitchell, I mean, the team has good overall height, but it's not anything like 7 footers that are waiting to kill anybody that comes into the lane. So that's going to be a problem for Texas, I believe, come tournament time, whether that be Big 12 tourney or postseason tourney. But yet again, that's something we'll watch out for. Devin Askew, I agree, hasn't been the prettiest of things out there so far, but then again, Askew should be a freshman this year. I believe he enrolled at Kentucky a year early, so I'll give him some slack. He's still growing out there. But I'm going to touch on, you did a good job of talking about individual players. I'm going to talk about like bigger picture things I've seen so far. So the pro that I have seen, the major pro I've seen, obviously, is that defense. We talked about it a little bit when Beard got hired. The offense might not look too pretty, but the defense should be there. And Texas was ranked number one in scoring defense for a while. But North Texas fans, if you're watching this, you guys surpassed Texas on the scoring defense list. So Texas is now number 2, North Texas number 1. But that's obviously great to see a defense. And Shaka Smart preached defense, that havoc defense, but the defense wasn't like it is right now. But also, I think the pace of play kind of leads to that. Now, the cons that I've seen, Dylan, a little more lengthy here, just because we're being a good, healthy critical here. You know, we're pointing out the good and the bad. So, stagnant offense, I mentioned that. It's not been too pretty, but then again, we kind of expected that going in. Beard's offenses at Tech never were really pretty either. So I'm not shocked by that, but obviously I like to see a little bit more rhythm going in. And at least the next point, inconsistencies. You know, it's one night Trey Mitchell's the guy, one night Timmy Allen's the guy, and it's fine having different leading scorers every game, but you want to see the rest of the guys continue to produce. It seems like every other night there's one guy and then everybody else isn't really producing in the way that they should be. And then the last thing I also mentioned prior to the season, I believe on most of the transfer videos we did, Dylan, is these guys are good scorers, they're good players out of their respective colleges, but the one thing that you can note about each of these guys was they're not three-point shooters, Dylan. They're just not, and it hasn't been pretty out there from the field. Texas is not the worst three-point shooting team in the world, so don't get that misconstrued, but they're nowhere near the top half in NCAA. It's not been pretty. As a team, they're shooting 32.8% from beyond the arc, which in the NBA still would probably be not so great, but this is college basketball where, you know, the three-point line, Dylan, I believe, is about 1 or 2 feet closer. So that percent should be better. Courtney Ramey is the leading shooter from beyond the arc at 36.4%, but beyond him, I believe everyone else is around 33% or below. So that is my major point outs there. Dylan, what about the importance of the three-point game in the tournament time?
Well, that's definitely the thing that's holding Texas back. When you look at teams that have won in the past, teams that do well, go on long stretches, it's that three-point shooting. It's when a team gets hot, and Texas has not shown it, so it's hard to project them really making a lot of noise in that regard. The good news is, in a round of 64 matchup, Devon, I think this Texas team is perfect for that. You know, less talented teams, I think Texas is going to be able to show that physicalityness that they've showed all year. But against good teams with large guys in the paint, that's when it's going to be used against them. That's when those hacks and sending them to the free throw line is really going to get them in trouble, Devon.
I agree. And now a little look into the future here, Dylan. We got the rest of the schedule. So Texas plays at Oklahoma on Tuesday. The game you were mentioning, Dylan, Tech traveling to Austin, that will be on Saturday against a ranked Tech team. And then the Longhorns will play TCU in West Virginia. And then after that, you got a tough 2-game stretch. You're hosting Baylor, a ranked team, of course. And then you're at Kansas to end the regular season, which, in my opinion, that's a blessing and not a curse. You know, right before the tournament time, you're going to get your most hostile environment, probably other than the Tech game, if I'm being honest. But Kansas, in general, probably has a more crazy crowd on the average game, so that's going to be a good test for the Longhorns. Now, Dylan, I kind of leaded you into this earlier, but do we have a revised postseason expectation on your end?
Well, I know when we talked about it in the past, and about in one of our videos, I said they would probably be sitting at a 5 seed right now. In bracketology, they're sitting at a 4. Like you touched on those games, I was when I was looking through it, I was seeing that if they want to move up from that 4 seed spot, Texas is still in the running for a 2 seed, to be honest. But they got to beat Baylor, they got to beat Kansas, and they got to beat Tech. So I mean, I would say that they got to win 2 out of those 3 to really solidify that 4 seed spot, possibly move up into the 3 seed. But honestly, if they want to really get into a good spot, they're going to need to win 5 out of the next 6 of the remaining matches, which is not going to be easy. Obviously, that defense, Devin, when you're looking at the KenPom advanced ratings, they're ranked 11th defensively, but that 36th in offense is not up there with some of the, the peak candidates going into March Madness. So that's going to be one to look out for. I think this is a solid 4 to 5 seed team that could definitely win their round of 64. Round of 32, they're honestly a upset candidate, but I see this as a Sweet 16 team, Devin.
Yeah, Sweet 16, still pretty generous of you. I believe that was what you were predicting, though, before the season. And it's obviously possible, as you're talking about, Texas still is in the range of getting to that level. Before the season, I believe I said Elite 8, Dylan. I am not feeling
We're also calling them a 2 seed, Devin. So
2 seed. Hey, like you said, it's not impossible yet. They win the games coming up in the Big 12 tournament. It's still possible, but I'm not putting my money on that, to say the very least. Elite 8, I think, is what I went with. Maybe even Final 4, but I think I went Elite 8. I'm not feeling Elite 8 right now. But then again, before you cut me off here, you know, just because Texas has lost recently doesn't mean we need to overreact and correct here, you know. So, still faith. It's Chris Beard. He came for postseason play, but then again, you know, I'm just going to have to see what he does. And now go ahead and do whatever you want with me over there.
make the Elite Eight, Devin. That's still in a range of outcomes, but like when you look at it realistically, what we've seen is Texas has really got to muck it up against good teams to really stay in a fighting chance, and then still it's like you got to look for some of those offensive plays that just kind of come out of nowhere, like those threes in the corner or such, or just like a breakdown in coverage on the other team. Like that's what they're kind of hoping for, possibly looking good at the free throw stripe. So I just the way that Texas can win games when you get in that Sweet 16 matchup when you're facing a 1 or a 2 seed, I don't see Texas beating those kind of teams. They'd have to kind of get lucky with some upsets in the bracket, possibly face a 8 or 9 seed down the stretch to get into the Elite 8. That's kind of where I would. That's really the only range of outcomes where I see them kind of advancing in that regard.
Yeah, and isn't it, Dylan, 5 versus 12 would be the seeding if they're a 5 seed?
I'm not a numbers guy, but that sounds
I
about
think
right.
it's 5 versus 12, and as
Yeah,
many
we're
of
gonna
you
go with that.
bracketology people know, that is about the war zone seeding. That is where you're lucky if you come out alive. So obviously Texas wants to improve their position before then. Like I said, Elite 8 I think is what I was going with before. Maybe I said Final 4, but I'm just going to say Elite 8 now. I'm not feeling too confident in that. If they do get to the Sweet 16 like Dylan is predicting over there, for this team, how they've played so far this year, I would not be too upset, especially after a certain team that shall not be named beat the Longhorns last season. Not even going to mention that school, but yes.
Abilene Christian, Devin? Was it?
Maybe. But
Yeah.
overall, very exciting things about the Longhorns team, even if they're not winning all these games. You're seeing the energy at Frank Irwin Center that we have not seen in years. This Tech game in Austin might have more Tech fans if you Longhorns fans don't show out on Saturday, but even then, the environment is going to be crazy. The Tennessee game, I believe, was a sellout, and just from videos that I saw at the scene was just insane. Something that I don't think I have witnessed at the Irwin Center, even though I've been to, games against like top seeded Kansas teams, Dylan. So it's exciting to see. So if you guys are in the area, show out. And what do you guys think about Texas's chances in the postseason play and even wrapping up this regular season? Let us know if you're more or less optimistic than us, or if you're overcorrecting the course a little bit too much. That's all right too. Let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.